So, my presentation is entitled AI Data Evolution. So, first off, I wanted to ask a question. Who here has a favorite artificial intelligence application? Anybody? All right, got a couple. Okay, so I guess I kind of want to talk about that because the reality is if you use Google, YouTube, Spotify, all these things are implementations of artificial intelligence. And there's kind of three tiers to that, but first I want to talk about why do we even need to care about artificial intelligence, and why is it kind of a logical progression in technology that is going to be as pervasive as the internet we use every day. So, to start, data is kind of like how we make thoughts physical. So the first kind of recorded data was this thing right here. It's a clay tablet in the first known written language of cuneiform, which is just, it's these little, symbols. It's kind of, it's very archaic. This is from 3400 BC, so very, very old. And if we want to get really technical, we can say this probably has maybe a few bytes of data, right? Or bits of data. So then, fast forward a few years, this is an IBM hard drive. Yeah, 2.52 gigs, and it weighed 550 pounds. All right. So yeah, that's several hundred years. And look at this guy. He's in a clean room. So there's all this. It's huge. So if anybody knows what 2.52 gigs, I mean, like we have SD cards, right, that are mini gigs. And I'm going to show you a new SD card that came out this year that's huge. So between this and this, there's a lot of different progressions in technology, right? So for instance, a book is a form of data, right? It's physically recorded data in a new form. So our technology got a little sleeker, got a little thinner, we have printing, we can make it a lot more efficient. So just kind of having that in view in this progression of technology. So we have digital data. So that is 1970s. This is a few years ago. This is a few terabytes. So this is 3 terabytes from this, and this was like $100. So putting things in perspective, seriously, that's a micro SD card goes in your phone, 400 gigabytes. 400 gigabyte SD card, Sandisk just put out, $250, very expensive, but ridiculous. So when we're talking about artificial intelligence, there's a couple things we need to consider. One, the amount of data. So these algorithms take advantage of large databases, like data storage devices, encyclopedias that have been shrunk down in size so they can be easily accessed very quickly. But if you have a ton of data, but you can't process it, then that's a problem. So, we have the original processor, right, our brain, but, it's really hard to think. Who just you just get tired, right? We burn out. So, we invented these microprocessors. So these first two, that's kind of like the first Intel processor out there, that's like the 4400 or something like that. Then you got the i7 modern processor, you have a high-end laptop, that's what's in it, doing all the computing. And then you have these NVIDIA graphic processors. So the problem with these guys is they're really hard to code for, they're really hard to make programs for. And that's kind of where Nexosis comes in, because they're making this great API with machine learning and who likes linear algebra? Who's just a huge linear algebra fan in here? Anybody? You guys, seriously? All right, you guys are amazing. Everybody go talk to them because they're really smart. And basically, everyone hates linear algebra. Everybody are the really deep math. So, and that's a hindrance to developing a lot of artificial intelligence applications because you have to do such high math to calculate probabilities, calculate trajectories, calculate all different types of factors to generate relevant data that is reliable. So, you got these two components, right? Data and processing, basically making the data relevant. So, why AI? So, there's a few points here. Reasoning. We can program a computer to make decisions for us. We give it a certain logic. It can say, you should watch this YouTube video, or you should listen to this song. Or probably something a lot more significant that we will see in the future. Automated learning and scheduling. Basically, also in the I worked in the IT field, so I worked in data centers, and there's a lot of things. If you don't automate, you're basically just going to have no life. So a lot of updates, a lot of processes of creating different virtual machines, different stuff like that. You can automate so that it makes life easier for you and makes your iPhone work, makes your internet work. All these different type of routine maintenance things can happen. It can, even automating your calendar, right? Who here sets calendar reminders, say, hey, remind me of this date, and it pops up. That's a very primitive form of artificial intelligence, making something else think for you, basically, conceptually. So, machine learning, that's along the same lines, programming a machine to keep track of information, learn on it, make it relevant. Let's see, natural language processing, that's, Siri, Google Assistant, also Google Translate, all these things kind of manage how the human interacts with the computer and how the human can get benefit from the computer and the whole experience. Computer vision, Tesla Motors. Who's a fan of Tesla Motors? They just made a car that can go from 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds. Amazing. And it's going to be fully automated. So that is possible because there's camera sensors and there's algorithms that are detecting things in the physical environment that are processing it digitally and saying, that's a bus, steer around it, or else the human's gonna die, which they don't want, right? So, computer vision, robotics. Who's heard of Boston Robotics? Boston Robotics. They're making these crazy things. I wish I had a picture of it. That they want to deploy in military. They can do backflips. They can run kind of like a real human. Very primitive and not perfect by any means, but they're working on it. So, and then general intelligence, searchability, making information more available to us. So essentially there's 3 stages of artificial intelligence. There's machine learning, machine intelligence, and then machine consciousness. So these have a lot of overlap. In fact, they kind of build on each other. They 100% build on each other. So instead of giving you a really verbose, academic definition, I'm just going to show you some pictures of things you already know that exhibit these 3 planes. Siri. This is kind of a machine learning thing. You say, show me photos from this date, this time, and it'll be like, whoop, there you go. Served. Machine intelligent. Knight Rider. Who here actually watched that, Knight Rider? So obviously this isn't real, but it's becoming real. Smart cars are a thing. There's a computer, and it's like a Tesla has a huge computer screen. Instead of all those dials, you just tap it, and you can say, hey, take me to this location, and I'll do it. So here's that motif of dream becoming reality. So this is like the 70s, Hasselhoff, you got this awesome Firebird with some laser light go back and forth. It's the thing of legends. I love it. I love this show. I didn't even watch the show, it's like the car, right? Who liked the car? I like cars. Anyways. And then machine consciousness. This is kind of the scary one. This is where you get a lot of conspiracy theorists talking about machines are going to take over the world. In fact, I did a survey through the university, and unfortunately I don't have it ready for today, but it's basically just saying we talked to engineering students and we're like, hey, what's your favorite AI? Do you think AI is going to take over the world? And most people said no, which is, I think we're hopeful, but there's a lot of people that think AI is going to turn into these machines, and then they're going to get smart, and they're saying, hey, humans are not good for the planet, and then the HAL 5000 or whatever number it is it 5,000? 9,000. And then like the only, anyways, Space Odyssey, check it out. So, those are the concepts. Sorry if it's confusing, but it does border on science fiction. But if someone told you that, maybe 20 years ago, that you would have a computer in your pocket, you probably believe them, and I, with very good reason, because that sounds impossible. But we always try to do the impossible. And one guy that loves doing the impossible is Elon Musk. Who's heard of Elon Musk? If you haven't heard of him, you've got to check him out. He's the brain behind Tesla Motors. He created PayPal back in the day. He is created something called SpaceX, which is the first consumer, or the non-government funded space program. And they're doing amazing things. They launched a rocket, they landed it, the same one, they're making reusable rockets, basically. So he has, I mean, they're investing in tons of stuff. One of the really cool things related to AI that they're investing in is they just bought a company called Neuralink. This is going to freak some of you guys out, and it should. It freaks me out. They have, so this company created like a network that's injectable into the brain, and they're trying to create a kind of human-computer interface that can, we can like upload stuff to your brain. I know, that's crazy, but this is literally what they're working on. So they're obviously testing on mice and all that stuff, but this is definitely for you to Google later because it's very complicated to explain. But behind that, there's a lot of software. There's a lot of, like I said, all these really cool things have a depth of data and information. There's a term called deep learning, which takes tons of information and gathers it and makes crazy things like this possible. So it's like kind of like the Matrix, right? When he plugs in, and then he can like learn kung fu in 2 seconds. I don't think it's going to be like that, but we can always hope, right? Or there's always the bad possibility where he can turn evil, like this guy who's seen this movie, Captain Picard, all that stuff. So that's like a bad AI, like, oh, it's going to take over the world and mind control. Don't think that's really going to happen. There's really no impetus for us to do that. But people that are working on this stuff, there's not a whole lot of them, but we have a really cool one in our neighbors down south in Columbus, which is Nexosis. But before I talk about that, the market right now is just teeming with AI startups. I tried to blow this up, but it wasn't high resolution enough. But basically, up here, it goes from first to last. These are all the companies that have been bought by major tech companies in the past year, or since 2012 actually. This is up to 2016. So there's been over 200 acquisitions since 2012. Google being the foremost purchaser of AI startups, then Apple, Facebook, and then the rest. So all this technology is being developed through small companies, startup companies, and the big companies like Google, Facebook, Apple are buying them up to aggregate them, plug them into their various data structures, their various environments, their algorithms to make them kind of supercharge them and hopefully create something that's relevant because it is a very early stage platform technology. And when I say platform, that basically means something you can make basically anything from. So the internet is a platform technology. You can do so many things in the internet, right? We have battery might have died. That can be loud. So you can make anything out of platform technology, and that's what artificial intelligence is. So one company, like I said, that's close to us is Nexosis, and they're next up. He's going to be talking about what they do, how you can be involved, and more on the coding side, I think, too. He's going to talk about how you can develop this technology, how you can get involved and use their API. An API is basically something that programmers use to make software easier. So, without further ado, come on up. I'm going to turn your volume up, and let's give a hand for Nexosis.